Hello and welcome into the Sporting JAX Report. Along with Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. A lot to get into, including a major announcement for the USL Super League coming up. But first, I want to remind you to become a member of Sporting JAX. It's easy to do and absolutely free. Just go to sportingjax.com, sign up as a member, and your official membership will include discounts on Sporting JAX official club merchandise, invitations to attend exclusive insider events, automatic entry into competitions for chances to win special prizes and experiences, and you'll receive the Sporting JAX monthly email newsletter. Plus there you can also put your deposit down on season tickets and receive first access to seats and a special limited edition Sporting JAX founding member pin. Just go to sportingjax.com to sign up. All right, Mauricio, huge announcement here in the past week from U.S. Soccer, who awarded first division status to the USL Super League, getting ready to launch here in August. We thought this was coming, and then looking at the specific requirements for a first division women's league in the United States, we saw that the USL Super League was meeting all of these requirements, but what a major deal for the entire league.
Well, it's a major deal for women's soccer and women's sport across the world, really. When you think about the fact that now you've just nearly doubled, right? I mean, we're kind of considering the teams that we will be coming on in 25 and 26, like Sporting JAX and many others that were named as part of this announcement as well. The opportunity that this announcement will create and will generate interest across the world, in women's soccer, and specifically of now there are going to be 20 plus teams, which then recently there were only 14 on the NWSL side. This is going to create more and more opportunities, and as you mentioned, we kind of knew, not officially, but the requirements have been met before, so it's a matter of, was there any stone unturned? But it's a great announcement for the Super League. It's a great announcement for women's soccer in this country, and I think it's going to have a tremendous amount of domino effects from this point on.
Now, I will say it is unusual to have two first division teams in any league around the world. Of course, the way that soccer leagues and associations have been built and developed has been different in Europe and South America than it is necessarily in the United States. But now here we are. You've got a chance to make a major impact on the women's game because you have two first division leagues now getting set to be playing in what has been the best country in the world for women's soccer. So the question is, what kind of an impact is it going to be across the world to have two first division teams, first division leagues here in the United States?
Yeah, and this argument has really been, how do we structure a soccer in America because of our landscape and because of our size? And that argument has been part of the men's development in the pyramid, and you do have in the NWSL only 14, I think 15 teams coming up next. There are so many opportunities, and there's so many areas of the country that still need to be developed. And soccer is already thriving, but there are no opportunities for young ladies to continue to play and work in, right, and represent themselves professionally, not just on the field. So I think the impact is going to be exactly that. You're creating more opportunities. You're creating more opportunities for executives and people to work in women's football. The impact on the field and having the two different leagues, I think it's unique and it's different, but our country is also unique and different, right? We have 3 time zones within the same country. You have so many different areas, and it's developed. I mean, from Spokane all the way out to Miami, there's interest, right? It's rare that a continent of our size can actually play football all year long, have sport all year long. That's not the same all over the world. So will there be a meeting of the minds at one point and leagues coming together? I mean, we can only speculate, but there's, my opinion, I think there's going to be an arms race to claim territory, right? And I think we've seen that in MLS and USL kind of trying to grow their territories. I think there will be an arms race of quality of product, quality of people working there, and just bringing to the community the opportunity for young ladies to be represented at the professional level.
The other question, of course, is how will players and coaches respond to this? Because the USL Super League will be playing a fall to spring schedule, while the NWSL plays a spring to fall schedule. So there will be year-round women's soccer being played in the United States. So what will the players domestically and overseas be thinking about this other league?
Well, I got a call today from a former friend, well, it's a current friend, a former co-worker that's still a friend, and she's playing in Europe. And once this announcement was made, and she called to find out more information, because now what they're assuming that it's tier 1, and they're right to assume that there'll be a comparable pay. That's what you would think of tier 1 in first division, that the comparable pay will now kind of rise to the top, where the original application was tier 2, it's a second league, and it's fine and it's good. But now that it's been elevated, what I believe is that investment will come in, interest will surround it, level of growth of the game and opportunities for sponsorships and marketing dollars, as we see already rising, now associating themselves with the Division One organization. It will create interest from European players that don't really know much about the Super League because it hasn't kicked off yet. But now they're going to start looking a little more intently on what it's going to look like, and specifically for professionals, right? They want to be compensated for their craft. So now they have an opportunity to kind of come in where maybe there wasn't space in the NWSL because of the limited teams. Tier 1, right there, there's space, right? And almost duplicating that space.
All right, let's take a look at the landscape of the USL Super League. Take a look at the map here. You can see where right now the Eastern and Midwestern time zones have a central time zone there has the predominant number of teams, but there are more teams ready to come online in the Southwest and out west as well. Of course, we know here in Jacksonville we'll be having the USL Super League team joining as well in coming season. So one of the big questions, you see Brooklyn on this map as well. That was just recently announced. They're going to play here in this first year. So far, we've seen 3 teams name their head coaches. Are you surprised, Mauricio, that we haven't seen more teams naming their head coaches and technical directors?
No, I'm really not, because I think this announcement last week was really, the pin that everyone was waiting to get pulled so they can initiate a lot of the processes within the club. I mean, not only haven't named their head coach, a lot of the teams haven't even named themselves. Right. So I think there's only 3 teams out of the 8 that actually have 3 or 4 that actually have a brand identity just yet. So some of the other teams were kind of waiting to see where they were going to fit, where the league was going to fit. And I think you'll start seeing names being announced, team names, club identities, and then head coaches that. I'm sure the conversations have already been are ongoing, and maybe even some soft agreements already in place because they got to kick off in August.
Right.
So they got to start putting a team together, and without a coach, you don't put a team together. So I'm not surprised, mainly because it's different of recruiting a coach of a tier 2 versus a tier 1. So some of the ones that maybe felt that they already had a coach in place regardless, and the agreement was there. But some of them now they've given themselves a better latitude on how to recruit potentially a top-level coach.
It'll be interesting. It'll be a topic we'll be covering in a future episode of the Sporting Pod as well. I want to remind you to subscribe to the Sporting Pod wherever you get your podcasts. Mauricio, Tony Allegretti, and I talk about the behind-the-scenes action of what we're doing here at Sporting JAX, as well as tackle some bigger topics. Recently, we talked about the blue card experiment and how that all could go down. So be sure to, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, subscribe to get the Sporting Pod. All right, now to some USL Championship news, Mauricio. A number of USL Championship teams are training in Tucson, Arizona right now, getting some preseason work in. That includes some northern teams, as you might expect, trying to get out of the cold, like Detroit City, coming down into the warmer weather. But some middle latitude teams as well. Sacramento Republic are there, Louisville City. You've got southern teams like New Mexico United and El Paso Locomotive making the trek as well. Are there some benefits for southern teams to take part in these sort of combined training sessions and preseason friendlies?
Yeah, obviously for the southern teams, they're not escaping the weather. They're really just escaping the distraction, and they're going towards the opportunity to play and to test themselves right? So if all these northern teams are kind of coming down, if El Paso stays in El Paso, who are they going to play in preseason? New Mexico the same. So they really go to environments where the teams are. It's concentrated. Tucson has an unbelievable facility. A lot of them are at IMG in Bradenton, Sarasota as well, because they have a numerous amount of field and they can really put teams into villas. So it allows you to be focused on your team, but at the same time, like, you're in an environment where everyone's doing the same thing, which is trying to get ready for preseason. So there's a bit of a community feel to the league, and to, they're playing against MLS teams, they're playing against USL, even some European teams that in some of the northern European countries, the Scandinavian countries that are in their off season until mid-February because of the weather there, they come over as well And so there's opportunities not just to play against each other in the USL, but against some MLS teams and some European teams. So you kind of go where the opportunity is, and some of these environments are unbelievable for player and coaches' experience.
Looking forward to seeing how that all plays out and how that impacts the upcoming USL Championship season. There are also some big moves made by USL Championship teams. I want to touch on 3 teams making moves, Mauricio, and get your impact, your perspective on what happened here. FC Tulsa signed the 22-year-old forward Stefan Stojanovic. Spent the last 2 seasons with Philadelphia Union 2 and MLS Next Pro. 10 goals, 2 assists, and 28 regular season appearances in 2023. This is a young goal scorer and really fits sort of the mold of the kind of player that USL Championship teams are looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, that's my point with this signing. I think more and more the MLS Next Pro are proving to be a young developmental league. And the USL Championship are looking at the MLS Next Pro and a little bit of the League One too, even though it's a little bit higher caliber at times, depending on the environment. Players that can prove themselves within an environment, and if you score goals, right? Like they say, goal scorers score goals anywhere. Certainly more challenging when you're playing against more experienced and older players. But I think it's a trend that we're seeing. You know, if you perform as a youth academy or semi-college player in the MLS Next Pro environment, there's probably going to be a good opportunity for you to start climbing the ladder. And this year we saw a lot of USL players, championship players, move internationally or move into the MLS. So I think that just makes part of the kind of the, if you can call a pyramid or the track of youth development or in soccer development in general.
Yeah, there may not be promotion or relegation, but you have players promoting themselves based on the way they play, climbing up the ladder. 2 players signed by Birmingham Legion as well, 29-year-old Sierra Leone international Mohamed Boyatore, and a veteran who a lot of folks in Jacksonville can remember, Stefano Pino, who twice won the Golden Boot Award with in the NASL, first with Fort Lauderdale, then also with Miami FC. Which one of these 2? These are older players signing, 29 to 33-year-old. A little different approach taken here by Birmingham.
Well, it's an approach to win now. I feel like they have a pretty veteran team. They thought last year, we talked about them maybe underperforming towards the end. The interesting thing about signing 2 veteran players, we know veteran players don't really have the longevity of a tough, long season. So having 2 that are goal scorers, that they're leaders, and being able to kind of play them off of each other, one's playing, the other one's resting, and vice versa. There might be times where they play together. There's an opportunity for them to play together. They're slightly different players, but getting that veteran proving goal scorer, Pino can play a little bit out wide as well, as we've seen in the past. Just shows that they're ready to win. And they were just really maybe a couple goal scorers away last year from making that jump from mid-table to top of the table.
And the other team making moves, as we expect more of these kind of moves, is Las Vegas. Las Vegas Lights retooling completely that organization with Jose Bautista, the new owner there, and they acquired veteran midfielder Charlie Adams from Tulsa. Adams was there as a 29-year-old, 196 appearances in USL Championship play ever since he made his debut with Louisville City in 2015. So again, here's a team that's trying to reimagine what they look like on the pitch, and they go with a veteran to sort of be a stalwart in that starting 11.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot. I think the new ownership in Vegas are going to be really robust and aggressive with making sure they put a product on the field. They keep talking about bringing soccer to the community of Vegas, which is passionate. But the interesting thing about this signing to me is really more, he went to Tucson in the offseason off of San Diego Loyal, discontinued their franchise, in that environment. But he hasn't played for Tulsa. He's actually gone to Tulsa and then got being redirected. So Charlie Adams, a veteran in the league, someone that you can account for as a veteran in your locker room. It's going to be one of many of the San Diego Loyal players that will find a new home, and he is probably one of the top ones from a name and Ironman in the league, captain of the team. I think we're going to continue to see and follow a lot of other San Diego Loyal players that unfortunately lost their position within the team last year when the team closed down. But for Vegas, and Tulsa probably felt the same way, to get a player of the caliber of Charlie Adams in their locker room as they're kind of rebuilding a little bit, he's a great signing for any one team.
Over 14,000 minutes in the USL. Pretty impressive for Charlie Adams. All right, want to, before we leave you, touch on the high school updates and a salute to the boys and girls teams that have made it through to the regional finals in the lower classifications. In boys 2A, St. Joseph Academy making it all the way to the regional finals. In the girls 2A, you have St. John's Country Day. No surprise there. They'll take on Christchurch in the regional finals, and then Episcopal and Stanton in 3A and 4A on the girls' side, making it all the way through. The larger classifications just getting underway with the regional playoffs, and we'll keep a close eye on what's happening there. But as we mentioned last week, St. John's Country Day, no surprise. Mike Pickett's team, always one of the best. They win state titles more often than not. But hats off to schools like St. Joseph Academy, Christchurch, Stanton, and Episcopal for making it all the way to the regional finals.
Well, we'll continue to talk about the representation of high school soccer in the landscape of Florida high school soccer and how many of them are being represented here. As you look at the lower class and then higher class, I mean, we have an abundance of teams that are still in the hunt. And I believe that when we get to the Final Four, I think we're going to have several of them as well.
I think so, too. All right, for Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Sporting JAX Report. We'll talk to you next time.